Hello, everyone. Welcome to our day before release comics preview show. I'm Jason,
I'm Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And it is our great pleasure every Tuesday, once we're done bagging and boarding the new comics, to divide them up, read them, and deliver to you, our audience, all the details, minus the spoiler bits. Meaning, we're going to tell you what it's about, why you might like the comic, just a general plot line without the beat by beat thing.
Yeah, why
So
you might want to keep an eye out for it when you go to your comic book store.
yeah, we don't want to take away the fun of reading it, but we do want to, I guess, arm you with the knowledge of which comics you want to buy because. You know as well as we do, on any given week, there's anywhere between 30 and 50 new titles
Yeah,
out. So I don't think everyone can buy everything. So we're going to hopefully help you out with that today. So where are we going to begin, Andy?
I will begin with something I have been waiting for. I've been waiting 80 years for.
Wow, you're a lot older than you
Yeah,
look. You have
well,
aged
it's the
well.
hat. This is the, let me make sure I get the title right, Aquaman 80th Anniversary 100-page Super
Super
Spectacular.
spectacular.
It's
Yes.
super spectacular. The word spectacular is written so small right here. I don't know what font that is, but it's barely legible. But they want you to know this is spectacular.
Mhm.
So, Aquaman being my favorite character, I was so stoked for this one. This is, as it says, 100 pages. We've got a bunch of different stories from a bunch of big creators. We have people like Jeff Johns, Jeff Parker, Marguerite Bennett, Stephanie Phillips, Cavan Scott. So many awesome talent working on different Aquaman stories from different time frames. And I know there's some people out there who are like, Aquaman, oh man. No, I only like him in the movie or whatever. But you really need to check this out because this is a great prime for people who maybe haven't even read an Aquaman story before. You get a little bit from all of his different time frames. He's been through a lot of transitions.
80 years, so
80 years. He's grown a beard. He's cut it. He's grown it back.
lost a hand, got it back.
So much stuff. But some of the stories in this, we have a really great story to begin with art by Doc Shaner, who, of course, has been working on Strange Adventures with Tom King. Really cool story about what if there's a creature in the sea Aquaman can't talk to. What happens with that?
Interesting.
We have the Jeff Johns story, which I feel like is one of the standout ones, is about Jackson Hyde, the new Aqualad, who we know in Future State becomes Aquaman, and his father is actually Black Manta. And so, if you wonder what kind of relationship do they have, you find out in this that once a year they meet somewhere to maybe talk things out, but of course ends in fights and everything. Really cool story.
And Black Man is getting his own miniseries soon, and so is Jackson Hyde.
Yes, which this issue has the, I guess the little prelude story to those. They're a little kind of taste by the creative teams that are going to be working on those. And one of them is pretty big. It is the Black Manta story by the creative team that's doing the Black Manta comic. And it introduces a brand new character named Gallius, I guess, Gallous, Gallius, and they've kind of already teased about her a little bit in some press releases, but she is essentially the child Black Manta always wanted, someone to help him in his criminal organization, where his son that became Aqualad definitely went to the side of good. This girl is kind of his protege. I feel like it's very interesting because sounds like they're really building up some characters for something coming up. You wouldn't just randomly introduce this character for no reason.
Right.
So really cool. But just stories involving all of the characters: Ocean Master, Black Manta, Mara, their daughter, Andy Curry. Really cool story with that, where you kind of see the first hints at what would become the future state team up between Jackson Hyde and her, becoming the new kind of defenders of the ocean.
Hmm.
So overall, a really, really great issue. Even touches on a time period that people don't talk about, where Aquaman had this blue costume that was made of magic. I mean, everything is touched on. Really cool. So, yeah, this is the 100-page spectacular. This is I believe it's a 9.99 book.
I think so
Yes.
too. Yeah, it's
Um,
quadruple size.
Quadruple
It is
size.
thick.
You'll really enjoy this, even if you're kind of on the fence as an Aquaman fan. Check this out. You won't be disappointed. Also, there's a bunch of covers for this. We are already sold out of a lot of the covers. So I'll show you the few we have. They are doing the decades covers. So we have, this is the 1960s variant by Walt Simonson. And we have the 1990s by Yvel Gouchette. Of course, of the hook-handed Aquaman. There's ones for every decade, and we are sold out of every one of them but these. So, I mean, if that tells you anything, people, one, great covers, but also people want some Aquaman. His series ended a little while ago, and this is kind of your first taste back, so definitely check out this one.
Okay, so I'm going to start with my pick of the week. It was my favorite read of the week. Big surprise by Tom Taylor and Ivan Coelho. It is Dark Ages. This is a new Marvel mini series that has been planned for a long time in the making. Not because it maybe took them so long to make it, but it was delayed. It was there was a preview of a bit of it in. It was a free comic book day Marvel title from 2020. So well over a year ago, they were supposed to launch it a while back, but because of the pandemic, it got delayed, and Marvel sort of shuffled around.
Yeah, there was a long time we were like, what happened to that?
Right, yeah. But with Tom Taylor on top of it, and them already having the preview pages, I had no doubt they weren't going to release this at some point. In fact, I suspect it might even have been a bigger thing and maybe gone into other titles and one shots. Instead, this is the event that a lot of people have been asking for, which is a Marvel event that just kind of stays in its own pages and there's not a million things to have to read about it, really.
Yeah.
So there will be some one shots to this. I think the last few pages is sort of like the guide of everything to it. And it doesn't even have as much as Heroes Reborn. I think it's like the main story is 5 or 6 issues, and then there's another 4 or 5 one shots. So I think it was 11 different ones, if I'm not mistaken, and that's it.
Yeah.
So
definitely more manageable.
Yes, very manageable. With a team like Tom Taylor and Ivan Coelho, the story and the art are fantastic. So what is it about? It asked a question: where were you when the lights went out? Meaning, this is kind of shown in the preview. All the electricity and any kind of machine power is lost in the Marvel Universe. Now, a story like this could be told a lot of different ways. You could start in the middle and then have flashback tales. But Tom Taylor doesn't want to do that. In this issue, this is a setup issue, but of the best caliber. He basically doesn't want to little by little tell you what happens. He tells you what happens in this one. It starts out and you will get to read how did this come to pass. 3/4 of this comic explain what happened with the electricity. Who's the villain? How did it occur? And the comics after this are going to be set several years after this one. Okay, so this is the setup of how did it occur, who's the villain. Now it's going to be from this point on. Okay, now how has everyone coped with this over the years? And other villains are going to have risen up based off the fact that certain people are more effective in a world where there isn't Iron Man and heroes with that sort of power where laser guns and laser rifles don't work. And so, I guess S.H.I.E.L.D. might have like bows and arrows now if they're still around. It doesn't go that far. I'm not sure. But I really like that. I think it's cool. It got that all out of the way. It doesn't leave you wondering. This is a very fast-paced setup story, too. There's a lot of action. It's not at all dull. There's not a dull minute to it. That's why it's sort of my pick of the week. The last thing I want to say about it is this is not set in the current day Marvel Universe. In fact, this seems to be a standalone story. So, meaning I don't think it's canon to this Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in a multiverse. Maybe they're just not caring about that. I'm fine with that. I like stories where you take the characters, you tell a good story.
Hmm.
You don't really have to worry about where it fits in. Now, some of you may read this and say, Jason, how do you know that? I can't tell you. It would reveal too much. But let's just say there are characters who have a kid they don't normally have.
Hmm.
And there's other characters where if they had had a kid, well, how's that character still young? It's things
Yeah.
like that that I pieced together to say this is outside the normal
Yeah.
um, current day Marvel universe, and I'm totally fine with that. All right, so we got this lights out black cover variant. Buy this, have your favorite artist drawing it in one of those fancy silver or gold metallic pens that look so nice. And then we have some incentive variants. This is the 1 in 25 Menopole variant that we are selling locally to our customers for $20. I shouldn't necessarily say locally. We have customers that order, anyone who orders through us. And then we are selling this 1 in 50 Stegman variant for $80. That one's pulling a pretty price right now. Look at that cool cover. Who is that character? You'll find out when you read the first issue. You'll find out in the first few pages.
Hmm. I'm very interested in that one. Whenever they release something, and especially if it's not tied in with anything, you go, okay, what was Tom Taylor's pitch? Where they're like, you got to tell this story. We don't care if it's maybe not in the main continuity. This is a cool enough story.
Well,
So
a Marvel universe without power, without electricity or robots or technology, and not just telling you it just happened, but like this is set years they've had to deal with it. You're gonna have all different kinds of character
hmm.
archetypes. I mean, all of a sudden, Daredevil's gonna be one of your best characters because he
Yeah,
doesn't care about that at all. In fact, he's great in the dark. He's
yeah.
particularly good in the dark.
And you have a
So
couple of characters that just fall over
yeah,
because they were 100% fabricated.
yeah. And in the free comic book day preview, Iron Man just falls out of the sky and sustains a terrible injury.
Yeah,
So yeah.
pretty cool. I'm excited about them. Next up is one I wasn't expecting. I should have been keeping up with the numbering and everything, but now I've got to talk about it. This is Geiger number 6, and this is the final issue. I'll say the final issue of Geiger. Now, that being said, there could be more. There could be a season 2 or something later. But this essentially wraps up the first story arc and pretty much tells you what's going to be coming up in the future.
That really surprised me when you told me that after you
Yeah,
finished reading.
I
I was
finished
like,
and I was
"What?"
like, I think this was the last issue of Geiger. I mean, I guess I was just blissfully unaware. I was just along for the ride.
Yeah.
Now there is a 80-page one shot coming out in November. You'll once you read this, you'll understand what it is more. But I will say, one great ending to this story arc with this character. Really important stuff. I feel like this might be a thicker issue than normal. When I was reading it, there was definitely no ads, and it just felt bigger. It could be that there was just so much story, but I think it may be a little bit longer. Um, the character arc of our main character, Geiger, the glowing man, gets a great, I won't say wrap up because it sounds very definitive, but his journey that he's been going on this series has a very good ending to it, and the supporting characters. So I won't reveal what happens with them, because we do know there's a lot of things in this world that we still haven't explored. So we've only seen kind of that one corner of Las Vegas that's now like this crazy, different kingdoms and everything, and we have the main one that was very Arthurian type land. We didn't see too much of what's outside of that, but it does promise in the 80-page one shot that we're going to see more of the different things around there. But the big thing about this is it does have the first appearance of a character that will be headlining their own series later next year. It says 2022. There is a reveal of a character. You could say they might have cameoed in the previous one, but first full reveal and everything of a character that's really cool. And that's just the beginning, because this lays out kind of some of Jeff Johns' grand plans for the Geiger universe. And there's more than just Geiger. There is, um, seems like through hundreds of years, there's been a bunch of different big characters, and I don't think we've seen the last of any of them. Considering the character that we learn in this one that's getting their own thing is one of those. It sounds like Jeff Johns has kind of set up shop at Image and said, "This is my new universe to play in," and this is kind of the door opening and the big, like, whoa, this is how big it's going to be. So not really a spoiler to say all of that, because you'll have to read it to find out the characters and everything. And when you finish it, I hope you're like me and you're excited to see what comes next, because it sounds great. And there is also a little write-up at the end by Jeff Johns, basically spelling out the creation of Geiger, what it was always intended to be, and then what is coming for the future. So really, really great issue. I'm sad that this is over, but it doesn't sound like it's over for long.
Yeah, because this sounds like what happened with the Black Hammer universe. You had the first 6 issues of Black Hammer, and then it was like, wow, people connect with this. And now there's a whole Black Hammer universe of one-shots, mini-series, and now they even got back to the original, some of the original characters.
I say this is very similar to the way that Black Hammer was structured, and I'm looking forward to what comes next.
Not as much an ending as a universe expansion.
I even think in it they talk about, like, this is the end, but this is where our story begins. And that is very true for Geiger. So definitely, if you haven't read this, it does also say, I think the trade comes out for it in November as well. And that's going to be a great, like, one and done story too, that, it's not gonna string you along afterwards. So we've got our main cover, of course, the Gary Frank cover. We've got the Jamal Engel cover with that horrible king character. You see a lot of him in this. And then you have the other Gary Frank cover with his awesome two-headed dog and some of his characters he's been hanging around with. So really great issue.
All right, so I read Batman Fear State Alpha. Comics, we love our alpha issues. So, of course, if you've been reading Batman like me, you know that Fear State, it feels like we've already been in it for a while. So it's interesting they're saying an alpha issue. But when you start reading this, it makes a little more sense as to even why that does track. And the reason is it begins with, it goes into a flashback of Simon Saint and Jonathan Crane, because we know they've been working together. That's been well established, that Scarecrow and Simon Saint have been working together to create Fear State, to give the magistrate more power, to make the mayor have to do what they want, and for them to be able to go after Batman and all the masked characters, whether they're villains or they're heroes. So this starts out, and it sort of you get to see, how did they meet? Where did these two characters come together? And it isn't just a quick part either. It is an extended conversation between Simon Saint and Jonathan Crane as to what their philosophies are, how they might be able to help each other. And then it goes from that to, okay, well, let's do it. Now, how are we going to do it? Which I think is very satisfying, because it has been sort of so convenient that Simon Saint has the help of the Scarecrow.
Yeah.
I'm glad Tynion's finally, and I think he planned it from the beginning, he's now showing us. And it was a more interesting way than, they shake hands and then we get to see them do it. Instead, we already see them being effective. Now we get to see the handshake with a very satisfying conversation, especially at this point in Batman right now, because in the latest issue, for those of you keeping up, Simon Saint and Scarecrow, their plans are kind of diverging, with Scarecrow kind of doing his own thing to the point that Simon Saint is himself afraid. So I think this is the perfect time to go back and show, okay, well, this is what they agreed upon now that Scarecrow's kind of doing his own thing. Also, lately in Batman, we know that both Batman and Peacekeeper 01 have been infected by the fear toxin from Scarecrow. Well, this issue, as Tiny tends to do, is packed full of stuff. So you get the conversation I told you about. You get to see more on what happens with Batman and Scarecrow now that the fear toxin's in him. You get to follow Peacekeeper 01 as the fear toxin is in him, and he's sort of on the loose, which is definitely not good for the Magistrate when their main guy starts going loco.
Yeah.
And that's just some of it. So before I tell you about the other things, one thing I'll say about the conversation between Simon Saint and Jonathan Crane is their idea. It's supposed to help Gotham, help in the way that villainous people often think they're helping. Because the best way I can relate it, you'll have to read it for yourself, is their plan reminds me a bit of Ozymandias' thinking from The Watchmen on how to help society, through
unifying
fear
them
and control. Correct, minus the whole doomsday clock and nuclear proliferation, because that was more on Alan Moore's mind.
Yeah.
So that's not there. I don't think that this is paying homage to it. It does end up sort of on the same track in a way. So other things in this issue, you have the first appearance of the Anti-Oracle. Now, who is the Anti-Oracle? We all know who Oracle is. Well, think of what the opposite would be. Oracle's all about giving you information, hard to find, good information. The Anti-Oracle is all about misinformation that causes fear and chaos. I will say it is currently a mystery as to who exactly Anti-Oracle is working for. And I'm trying to figure out, I can't figure out, maybe if you read the issue, you'll know, but I don't think it's revealed yet. But you'll have to see how this character pops up, what they do, what they kind of look like. That's as much as I can say there. And then, so another part that's in this is in the last issue of Batman, Harley Quinn and Ghostmaker saved the Unsanity Collective, who have been framed for a bunch of crimes or set up. So in this, you get to see where they take them, which is to Queen Ivy's Grove, who is a very weirdly different character than the Poison Ivy we've known up until now. So that's another part in this. The last thing I'll say is this brings us so close to Future State, this issue, that you almost get the feeling like next Batman could very well appear in an upcoming issue of Batman. So that's where I'll leave it. So this is sort of the first issue of Fear State. Everything else has been the lead up. Sort of like it was like the lead up to Joker War, and then there was Joker War. This is officially the first issue of Fear State. So as far as variants, we have, this is the Teague variant with Peacekeeper 01, all messed up on that fear toxin. That is that's the wrong kind of LSD to be taken. And then here is the 1 in 25 Jimenez variant. We are selling to our customers for $25. Get a few sketches of some of the characters there. I like Scarecrow's new design.
I like it a lot.
Do.
It's actually scary.
I know, yeah.
And he's got needle fingers, which is just horrible.
Which he's already used multiple times.
Yeah, until you've got like an itch and you're like, oh man, I forgot.
I gotta take the whole costume off.
Okay, so my next one is our next installment of I almost said Mir Gandolfo, Peach Momoko's Demon Days from Marvel. So this is Demon Days Cursed Web. And what's interesting about this one is I feel like we got misinformation back and forth before. Are these connected? Are these not connected? I believe, I haven't gone back and checked the previous one-shot that came out. I believe this is the first one that actually has like a previously in Demon Days.
Okay.
So this does continue the story of Mirako from her one-shot from I guess a few months ago.
So we do have confirmations these connect.
These do connect, and Mirako has left her kind of she was raised, and then she had like this servant that turns out to be kind of Black Widow, this universe's version of Black Widow. Now Mariko's on a journey to find out who she is, what's her origin, where does she come from. A very uh, traditional quest, like, you know, where you run into characters along the way that you do little adventures with them before departing.
The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Questing.
So this one, as she's going on this thing, runs into some, I guess, this universe's version of like brigands or whatever. I won't say who they are. You'll have to read it, but they are. You'll see them and you'll immediately know who they are from the Marvel universe. What's interesting is no one has their like traditional names from Marvel. So
yeah,
a few of them you have to kind of suss out who maybe they're homaging.
Yeah, who they're inspired by.
Because this is less a one-for-one than I think people originally thought. We saw like the cover of number 1, you're like, oh, well, that's Psylocke and that's Venom.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more hazy than that. So she is rescued. Miriko's rescued by a character that you can see on the cover is very similar to, and this is where it's kind of a little, you've got to figure it out. Is this more Spider-Gwen or is this more Silk? Or is it kind of an amalgamation of both? But we have a character who is very into spiders. She has pet spiders. She even kind of like fist bumps her spider. So it looks like she has a like real communication with them. But this character has been, her family has been killed by a yokai, which is like a spirit, and she describes what this person looks like, and they are a woman with blue skin that can change shape. So I won't reveal too much after that. That's just kind of the setup. But
shape-shifting Smurfs.
Yes. Oh, where's Gargamel when you need him? But this is a really good issue. I think this is one of the best like narrative single issues. The story is very well structured. It's kind of got a beginning of the problem and a solving of it that I really enjoyed. I thought, it feels less like a piece of a long thing and more like you could read this one, and outside of this character's going on this journey, it's a little like Usagi Yojimbo. Like, as long as you know they're going from town to town, they run into situations. I think this one is probably one of the best for that reason. And the characters that are brought into it are really cool. It's pretty violent, more than I thought it would be, especially to see Peach Momoko do some limb chopping. But
channeling her Red Room talents.
I guess so. And the other thing is, okay, I don't want to give it away, but there's some cool stuff. And if you don't have spider webs, what do you use instead? So you'll have to check that out. But really cool issue. I really liked it. Of course, the art is amazing. Peach Momoko. I like how she was doing all these covers, and it's like, you do great covers, and it's like, oh, I wonder how you'd be on interiors. And she puts this out, and she's like, I'm good on those too. So what? Like, I mean, it's all so good, so unique in her style.
And she's writing it too.
And she's writing it,
Yeah.
and so it's not fair that someone has the triple thread of art and writing and coloring and covers. But yeah, so really great issue, and what it teases for the next issue is going to be really cool, because there is no doubt who the characters are that you see at the end of this. One is very Super Saiyan Goku looking, and the other is a familiar character, but in a child form. And you'll have to read it and see, but I think people are going to be excited about that. Like all of these issues, some great covers. So first, we have the Agnes Garboska cover. She does a lot of the little kid versions, really sweet. We have of course, Ron Lim version. He's getting all the work at Marvel. we've got the Girahiru cover. We have the Yoon cover, which I really like this one. You get a good look at this Spider-Gwen-esque character. So, in case you were wondering who the mysterious blue character is, I think this might give it away. But this is the Jenny Frizen cover, which artistically this one is so interesting. Her skin tone and the background are the same color, but just the shadows differentiating it.
Yeah, enough thick sort of outlines.
Yeah. And then we have the 1 in 25 variant that we are selling to our customers for $20 by Bengal. So, another great installment in the Demon Days magnum opus. I don't know how many issues this is going to be, but I'm all for it. I want to see all her interpretations of all the different characters.
I read it the other day. It was either 5 or 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to see her, like, maybe her Iron Man, or some of the characters that you wonder, how would that work in this universe? Doctor Doom or something.
Iron Man, he's all steam powered. So I read Red Sonja #1. Now I know it seems like there's at least 2 or 3 Red Sonja or Red Sonja tie-in series every single year. So we don't have time to review every single one of them, but this one I wanted to for a few reasons. For one, it is done by Mirka Andolfo, who is doing the story to it. Mirka Andolfo, of course, is known for Unnatural. She's currently doing Sweet Paprika. I also have read that this one sold a lot more copies than previous iterations of Red Sonja and has already sold out on the distributor level.
Mm-hmm.
So it piqued my interest. So today, that's one of the ones I grabbed. I was like, I haven't read a Red Sonja #1 in a while. Let's check this one out. Well, it didn't disappoint. It was definitely a good issue. Some very good art. As far as the story, Red Sonja has been hired to save a little girl who was stolen as an infant. She was stolen as an infant. Her parents never gave up hope that she's still alive. And some word has reached their ears that a girl bearing her tattoos has been seen. Now, why does she have tattoos? Because she's part of this priestess guild, this high-ranking priestess guild. That's what she was supposed to grow up to be. So Red Sonja has to try to track her down. Of course, she comes upon the people that have her. There's a lot of violence, a lot of fighting. That is not what the whole issue is about. That's just sort of the beginning. Where it goes, Red Sonja has to protect this girl. Meanwhile, this girl doesn't know her own family. She keeps thinking Red Sonja's her mom, which is very uncomfortable for Red Sonja. That's probably some of the best parts of it, is her trying to deflect from that, while also sympathizing with the girl, knowing what it's like to grow up without your family. So that's basically the first issue in a nutshell, except that it does have a surprise ending with the little girl maybe being more than what she seems. So by the end, you'll go, oh wow, okay, that's definitely going to play into these future issues, and now maybe we see why there's so much fuss over this girl. So there are many variants to this. Our store, we don't order all the variants. It's just too much. So the only one that I really brought to show is we have the 1 in 50 black and white Linsner variant that we're selling to our customers for $15. Some Red Sonja and the little girl right there.
Yeah, it's cool that they got Mirka Andolfo to do this. One, I mean, when you get Mirka Andolfo to write, you get her to do the covers.
Yeah.
And so automatically you've got some amazing artwork just on the covers. But also she has a very unique voice in the comic scene. I mean, you could see that with all of her work, like Unnatural and Sweet Paprika, very European style and everything. And I think that's a refreshing voice to bring to a character that we've gotten so many issues of over time, of Red Sonja.
Yeah, she's not afraid to write, because in this issue, although there are parts that are just pure action where they need to be, there is a good bit of dialogue and character thoughts that, you're right, it was more than what I've seen in previous Red Sonja. But it wasn't overboard. It
Yeah.
was just like, oh wow, I kind of feel like I'm reading. It's a little bit more book like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Cool. So, my next one is Infinite Frontier, number, I believe it's number 5. Yeah,
yep.
5 of 6. So, we are the penultimate issue, which it seems like we just started with this book. I guess we're so used to comics being delayed that when one comes out on time, you're like, man, way to rush these
If you
out
think
there.
back to number 0 though, because number
Yeah,
0 was
number 0 was a while ago. Well, this one is really cool. We finally kind of get it is that kind of classic penultimate issue where you can tell the last issue is probably going to be a lot of fisticuffs, but this is where let's lay it all on the table. This is what's been the plan through the whole thing. This is what all these little threads with these different parts with the Justice Society and the stuff with Roy Harper
Roy,
and so all the threads are finally getting pulled together, and we see the grand opus that it's not a spoiler that Darkseid is behind. We knew Darkseid was a major player coming into this at the end of number 0.
yeah.
We knew that was it's been hinted at all along, but we kind of finally learn what his plan was and what Psycho Pirate's plan was. And reading this, you kind of not that you sympathize with them, but it is very understandable why all of this is happening. And it basically boils down to, without giving anything away, the multiverse is doing fine until the main DC universe, Earth Zero, tends to be the problem in all of it. Why does all the big events happen there? And it affects everyone. So you'll have to read it to see the full thing because it's really interesting. I really like the story. I really like that they're using characters that don't necessarily get the spotlight a lot of times. I mean, Director Bones is a major character in this. You have Alan Scott. You have Jaden Obsidian, his kids. You've got Psycho Pirate, Roy Harper. You learn what the big deal is with Roy becoming the new Black Lantern, why that is, why he was selected. That's been the big question this whole time. Why him? Why was he brought back and some of the others weren't? We learn all of that. This is a great issue. If you've been like, I don't really know where this is going, this definitely brings it all together, lays it out, and you get a good idea of what is coming next, not only with issue 6, but we do know that there is going to be a series after this coming later that Joshua Williamson has shown off, where we get more of the kind of multiversal Justice League team. And we kind of see where that's heading as well. So, really good penultimate issue. I'm excited for the last one. I want to go back and read this whole thing as a whole because there's a lot of like clues early on to what's going on now. And I think this is going to be another one that's a really good read all at once. It's very fast paced. So, we have one variant for it. Continuing these kind of, I believe they're connecting, but these Brian Hitch covers with some of our main cast. This time with Roy and Jade.
All right, so the next one I read is Wonder Girl number 3. So it says right there in the bottom corner, ensnared by Eros. That's going to give you a big hint as to what this issue is about. Because I'll tell you, I guess if I had to theme this issue, I would say this issue is about how everybody wants Yara Flor. Everyone. I kid you not. And you've seen it. If you've read the other ones, it's like the minute she made it to Brazil, the word just went out. And you saw people all over the DC universe being like, Yara Flor, Yara Flor. And some of them just took note, but a lot of them got on the move. And so it's really sort of coming to a head in this one. So even as a spark grows between Yara and her friend Juyo, that's her bus driver friend who she met in issue number 1. He seems like a major character. Maybe he ends up being her Steve Trevor. We'll see. Even as the spark grows between them, Eros comes to collect her any way he can to whisk her off to Hera. Now, Eros is the god of love.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's he going to do? He's basically Cupid with his arrows. Let's just say he uses those arrows, but maybe not in the way you expect.
They don't have big like heart-shaped tips on them.
No,
suction cup.
Things don't immediately go to plan for Eros, and once he's able to kind of get his way a little bit, it's pretty just different than you'd expect on how he does it. Meanwhile, we get the story of several people who are looking for Yara, including Cassie Sandsmark and Artemis, who for their own reasons are looking for her, and they come across each other. And they have to decide, are we going to work together or not? Because we both have completely different goals at the end of this. So reading that conversation and seeing how they decide to cope with that is pretty interesting. Then third group of people who are after Yara, it is the mythical creatures of Brazil. I'm not joking. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but it's not just one type of creature. It's multiple creatures, mythical creatures of Brazil. They, for some reason, want Yara to stay with them. And so she has a choice to make on who she's going with and in what order and why. Just everybody is pulling at her like crazy. It would be no fun to be in that position, I would expect. So I have to say, this issue, another way I would put it is, a lot of things happen in this issue, but very few things get answered. This is only in issue number 3. This stuff has to branch out, and the branches are just growing. As always, the art is wonderful. If you like the cover art, you're going to like the interior art. So there you have it. What I liked about the cover is, oops, I'm grabbing the wrong one. Can't wait to talk about this one later, though. So, she's saying, and who might you be? And the look in her eyes. And it's about Eros. Mm-hmm. So you get the idea, well, maybe this is how you get affected, when you're affected by Eros. And I think that's a very clever cover for them to try to pull off, as far as it's more than just a question. It's like a feeling.
Yeah.
So we have the variant. This is the Dinicio variant. I've had a lot of people pre-order this one. It's just different.
Yeah. And
this is just sort of, I don't know, a lot of the difference they do with Yara than they do with regular Wonder Woman. You could put regular Wonder Woman like this, but it's not quite her character.
Yeah.
Whereas Yara Flor fits this much, much better. And you see her weapon, which she does try to use pretty much for the first time in this. So that's another big aspect of the story.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So my next one, make sure I got everything in order, is Monster Kill Squad. So this is a new book from Bad Idea. This is part of their final 5 books before we'll never hear another word from Bad Idea again.
Certainly not.
They are just going off. They're going to pack their suitcases full of money and walk out.
I know, and they're so unpopular.
They're so unpopular, I understand
people
why they're
aren't
going
looking for
out.
their stuff at all.
Even in all their emails, we just got one, and it was like, remember, we're never reprinting these, we're never doing this, and we are done at the end of this year, right? And it's like, you trolls.
Yeah.
But this is a new one. This is by Christos Gage and Giorello is the last name of the artist, and this one is really cool. So I've read most of the Bad Idea books, and it's funny because they bring concepts. I'm like, why hasn't this been done before? This is another one, very reminiscent of things that you may have read. But this one is about kind of the tagline or whatever, what monsters have nightmares about. Is this team...
That's a good tagline.
...of your kind of special ops team that are definitely kind of a... you've got one guy who's got like a gun arm. This isn't like, oh, they're all librarians and they're... a mystic and stuff. It's like, no, these are like 90s level Terminator and
built for war,
yeah,
and
like
not to do normal
yeah, you
human
can tell on the
things.
cover that these aren't your simple conjuring people. So we've got the guy with the gun arm. There's one who is like a ninja nun priestess. We've got kind of a sorceress type lady. You got your hard nosed leader character, and something happened 2 years prior to this story where suddenly um, monsters have appeared, and now we have this team that was formed to go out and stop them. And these aren't your normal monsters. At least we don't see it in this, but it's not like, oh, it's a werewolf or it's whatever. The first big bad in this one are killer clowns, and it's funny the way they talk about them and everything. It's like, oh, there's like three clowns. These are three different types of clowns. We've got the crawler clown that like can't help but go on walls and stuff, and there's the ones that like crack bad jokes, but they're all very scary. They're all very like Pennywise. Can make you see things. They kind of in their briefing before they go out, it's like, okay, we all know how these clowns work. They've got slight hypnotic abilities and some kinds of hypnosis, and so they've kind of like classified these monsters, and now they're going to go in to find them. But the majority of this issue is kind of this team going in and how they deal with these clowns. But there is a bigger story at play here. Uh, for one thing, why are these different forms of clowns working together? It sounds so funny. Like there's like you get hints that maybe there's certain kinds of monsters that you wouldn't normally put together that are doing something, and there's something big behind it. Whatever happened 2 years before this, so a really fun issue. Definitely a tongue in cheek, like it's super serious, but almost in the way that stuff like Predator was or Terminator. It's like so over the top and so actiony that it cuts the scary quite a bit, but not in a way that takes away from the story. I really like this issue. I didn't know hardly anything about this when I started, and after this, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to read this. I would want this to be a long series because I want to see what other crazy things they go up against. And
So there are more issues of it coming out.
I believe so. I believe this is one of the ones that is actually a mini series. Of course, this does have a backup story, like all Bad Idea comics do. The backup story, very weird. I don't like to give too much away because I feel like they're all kind of little, not like jokes, but like a setup and then a punchline. Not necessarily humor, but how they're structured is really quick, one and done little stories. But you have to check it out to see. But I highly recommend this one. I've liked a lot of the Bad Idea books, but I put this one towards the top in just how much fun I thought it was.
Well, I didn't mean for this to be our bad idea corner because there are two bad idea books out this week, and Andy got one, I got the other, and we don't order the show knowing what each other's going to do. We do it in whatever order. But it turns out I'm about to talk about the other book, which is called Pirate Queen. This is issue 1 of 4. It is by Peter Milligan with art by Adam Polina. And I have to say, if I had a second pick of the week, it would be this one.
Wow.
And so you were talking about how Bad Idea books, they're really wild, they're really weird. This one, I wouldn't describe that way. Like stories about pirates, they've been done before. Story about female pirates, they've been done less, but they've been done before as well. Instead, this is just a really well done comic. The art is excellent. The story is told in a very linear and clear fashion with some very solid writing. It's the sort of thing the whole time I'm reading it, I'm like, I wish so many more comics could just be told this well. So it is about the tale of a woman whose name is Monday. And she was born on the high seas and has been raised there from the time she was an infant. And this story goes it tells her story from the time she's an infant all the way to where she has been captured and sentenced to death. But that is not the end of her tale. As interesting as reading all that, all her backstory was, this is going to be a tale of revenge. So,
Hmm.
again, this is a setup story. It shows you what happened to her, how she was captured, the things that she promises to try to save those she cares about, if those promises are kept or not,
Hmm.
and how she eludes death enough to swear vengeance that I hope she gets in the next 3 issues. So really cool story. Um, it's just really excellent storytelling, excellent art, and really good mood to it. So that's about all I'll say on it because I know not everybody can find the bad idea
Yeah.
stuff so easily. But this one was it was less like bizarro than
Hmm.
some of the stuff I've read from Bad Idea. As much as I like that, it's like sometimes I just want a real well done comic, and that's this one. There was a backup story. It was a sci-fi story about a man on a very inhospitable planet and what he does to stay alive. And like you were saying at the end, is sort of the punchline. It's the twist of,
Yeah.
well, why was he there to begin with?
Mhm.
Which it was a really good twist.
Yeah.
So, but the A story was definitely the one to check out. I highly recommend it if you can pick up Pirate Queen.
I think it's funny that it's hard to describe, but you know it when you read it. Is like that was really well done.
Yeah.
It's something that like I don't know. You didn't have to stop too many times and try to figure out what's going on. It's something that just flows, and you get to the end faster than you thought you would, and uh, it's it's so refreshing when you get those like, wow, that was a very complete, solid, well told story.
You
And
know, efficiency of storytelling, correct word choice,
uh-huh.
the proper mood, the dialogue matching the art. You know, it's a lot of
Yeah,
components, but it had it.
it's something that probably not a lot of people think about, but you know when it's done well, and you know when it's done very badly.
Yeah,
And good to hear that it is on the good side.
yeah.
So, it's hard to pick my like pick of the week, but I will say that uh, Star Wars High Republic #9, I believe is the best issue of Star Wars High Republic so far. So, the way Star Wars High Republic is structured is um, we have kind of the kickoff novel that came out as kind of the first thing of all of it. Then we've got all of the subsequent books, comics, everything. Well, just about a month ago, we got the second kind of pillar in the High Republic story. I believe it's called Rising Storm. And this picks up after that. So you don't have to have read the novels to get kind of the big story of these big events that happen. It does help because they're referenced, but there was a big event that happened in that where the Nile kind of unleashed one of their worst attacks so far on a peaceful gathering of people from all over the galaxy.
Mm.
And now this takes place a little while later, and the Jedi have been tasked to hunt down the Nile wherever they are and eliminate them. So we went from the Jedi in kind of the first volume, which also came out this week, I believe, volume 1 of High Republic, um, where they were passive. You see them peacekeeping and all of that. Now we see them. What's it look like when they are on the attack? When they are spread out in special missions to different areas to find the Nile as they're hiding out, and it is really cool to see how the Jedi, working at their height, are so efficient. The other big thing in it is if you see the cover, that's been kind of our main character so far in the series, Keeve Trennis. And she was a Jedi, but now, as you can see, she is putting on Nile armor. And that is in this, and you'll have to see if this is for real or um, is she working and going behind
Double agent.
double agent?
Mm.
But it goes back and forth between two timelines. But you see that she is not necessarily happy with the way Jedi are doing things. This has first appearances of a lot of the characters that are in the novel that haven't been seen in any other thing, which is really cool if you're reading the novels or any of the other media. You haven't visually had a visualization of what the characters look like. You get quite a few in this one, and I love how they're working so seamlessly through all the different versions. But yeah, I think this is possibly the best issue of High Republic so far, and also just for the fact of, way more action, way more um, on the attack rather than being the Jedi being like on the sidelines as things are going on. So great issue there, and I also want to show off High Republic Adventures that also came out this week. This is High Republic Adventures number 8. What is really cool about this is we return to a planet that we haven't seen since the new trilogy of movies. It's a place that we know has been around a long time, and I feel like I skate so much by that you don't even know what I'm talking about. A certain character from High Republic that we know has been around a very long time that kind of played a key part in that are still around in this, this 200 so years that took place before it. And we find out more about that planet and that there's Jedi involvement in it. Plus, the first appearance of a new Jedi in this named Sav Maligan. And I was reading an article with the writer, and they basically said, like, the Lucasfilm and everything was like, just create what you think is the coolest Jedi ever, and design their lightsaber and everything. And so we get the first appearance of that Jedi in this, and they're kind of like another one of those. If you told a kid to, like, I don't know, draw a cool looking Jedi, and the kid had been watching like a lot of Samurai Jack and stuff, and then you get this new character. So 2 really good Star Wars books this week. We have one a variant for the regular High Republic. This is by Pagulayan. I've seen his name on a lot of stuff. And then we have a 1 in 10 variant for High Republic Adventures by Kairizazis. Man, it's just like they're trying to kill me with names. I apologize for anyone out there who has a difficult name. And we are selling that to our customers for $25.
Okay, so I read Captain Marvel issue number 32. So this is the beginning of a new story arc. You read at the bottom, it says Last of the Marvels. And you see on the cover, Captain Marvel is fighting someone who is in that dark Captain Marvel outfit that Vox Supreme had been utilizing. This is back from Captain Marvel issues 12 and on, the evil Captain Marvels that were working for Vox Supreme. So the question is, who is this person? So this comic is a large battle between Captain Marvel and this other dark Captain Marvel. And it all culminates in Carol finally finding out who's in it. And when she finds out who's in it, that starts this whole storyline. Like, that's where the plot's going to spin out from, is, oh, wow, the reveal. So you'll have to read it to find that out.
I skimmed through it because I was curious.
Okay.
And it basically has one of those things of, like, you see Captain Marvel's face, like, what? And then you turn the page, and it's one of those classic reveal scenes.
What I'll say is, it marks danger for everyone who has ever called themselves Captain Marvel, and possibly certain key allies who may have Marvel involvement, possibly even in the name. So that's the most I can say without revealing any more than I should. We've got 2 variants here. The first is the Nakayama Miles Morales 10th anniversary variant, where he's got the cat on him. And then the other, this is the Garbett variant.
One just briefly going to talk about, we have Spawn issue 321. So I guess this is our first post King Spawn issue. It's funny to see because King Spawn has a very distinct story of what's going on, and now we have Spawn and they're running simultaneously, but they don't necessarily have too much crossover. But continues to be a great book. It would be difficult for me to go into what the story is unless you've been reading it, but it does have a medieval Spawn backup story, which I love. They've been doing all these backup stories exploring all the different versions of Spawn.
So he's not just on the cover.
He's not just on the cover. There is a full backup story about him and who this new character is who has taken up the mantle of medieval Spawn. So, another great issue. Just some of the best covers in comics right now coming out of Spawn. Just when you think of what's cool, I mean, nothing's cooler than Spawn. And we've got the Matina variant. Kind of dark, kind of hard to see, but very Spawn and very moody.
That is certainly Matina style.
And then we have the McFarlane cover, which McFarlane actually has changed his style quite a bit since the original Spawn. It's less cartoony, used to have very exaggerated features, and
he's more gritty.
Yeah. Man, used to read some of this old Spawn. Like, if someone poked their finger out, you saw every fingerprint of that finger and everything. But still awesome to see McFarlane doing some of the covers. And then lastly, we have the Virgin variant of the Barins. This is a 1 in 50. Check that out. And we are selling that to our customers for $90.
It's a good cover.
It's a great cover, and we've seen recently how hard some Spawn issues are to get. And so, this is making it a whole new level of, used to we didn't have incentives and everything. So for completionists now, it's getting a little bit harder, but you're getting some awesome covers.
Okay, so I read Harley Quinn's 2021 annual. So, a lot of times annuals are a real departure from the main series. This one, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. So it's the same team that does Harley's current book working on it. So it's not like a different team. And in this issue, you can see on the cover, Harley is all chained up. Well, that is definitely part of what the issue is about. So what's cool about this is Harley has her new friend, Kevin. He used to be a henchman of the Joker's, and she's trying to show that everyone who worked for the Joker is not bad like herself. That she's taken on Kevin to show, I can redeem this person. Kevin's not really that bad of a guy. In fact, he's a bit of a pushover, and that's how he ended up in the Joker's gang. Well, this is the first story that really Kevin takes the forefront. It is him going to Mr. Freeze, trying to get Mr. Freeze's help because Harley has been kidnapped. So it's definitely starring in media res. It's like stuff's already happened. Now, why did this happen? Why did Harley get kidnapped? Why are you at Mr. Freeze's lair? Why are you trying to get Mr. Freeze to help you?
All of the characters I would get to help me, I don't think Mr. Freeze would be one of them.
And so, right, that is what the plot explains. It explains it very well. This I actually enjoyed this one quite a bit. This might have been my favorite issue of the current Harley series. But it might just be because exploring new characters, I always like that. And Kevin gets to do a lot more in this issue. This also has the first full appearance of a new villain. His name is Keepsake. And I do believe he's going to be back. I'll just say that. It doesn't seem like a one-and-done villain. In fact, he seems pretty tailor-made for Harley because he has ties to the Joker as well. He has a history with her and the Joker. You will get to learn what his powers are, and they do relate to his name, Keepsake. That's the most I can say. It explains his name. It explains what his powers are. His power set. It's good for a Harley villain. It's a little goofy, but can still be effective, is what I will say. let's see, what else do I want to say on this? Oh, so Keepsake, just so you know, his first cameo, he had a cameo in Harley Quinn #5. I
Okay.
don't want anyone to miss that in case, for people who want to get it all. But I think I've generally explained what the book is about. I think the rest you'll have to read for yourself. But I will say, with Keepsake being around, it looks like Harley might have another Joker, or at least a Joker wannabe person to fight against
Mm-hmm.
now that her and Joker are truly just kind of done.
Mm-hmm.
And he's off, doing his own thing in his own book.
Yeah,
and,
he's over in Paris now.
Correct. So I think that's another reason that this character is, that they've created him,
Mm-hmm.
and he fits in well. We have the Derek Chew variant. Harley with the bat. I think that's Big League Chew that she's blowing there with all baseball players are chewing.
Okay, so my next one is... Am I grabbing the right one? Okay, this one. Teen Titans Academy. This is number 6. And Teen Titans Academy, one of my favorite DC books coming out right now. I love all the new characters. I love, like you're saying with Harley, there's so much I don't know about these. And for DC, someone who's been reading it for a long time, it's rare when there's like, I don't know what a character's going to do next. I don't know what a character's allegiance is. And what's really fun about this is it is a book about preteens and teens, kind of like your classic Teen Titans. I feel like this really captured the spirit of kind of the like Marv Wolfman, Perez era of Teen Titans, where in this one, it is their spring break or summer break. What do? They're all going to go down to the lake. Like, it is such a classic, almost how, like, the X-Men used to play baseball and stuff.
Right.
I like these superheroes having these bonding moments of going out and doing something. Now, of course, you can't exist in this world without something bad going down.
A villain happening, during spring break.
With the question where they go to the lake and they say, "Where is everybody? It's summer. There should be people swimming all over the place." Well, something has happened, and Gorilla Greg might have something to do with it. So, our favorite nephew of Gorilla Grodd, Gorilla Greg, is kind of our main focus in this issue. Another great issue, another very character-driven one. Now we're kind of seeing the story through from his perspective, and really fun. I'm glad they're keeping the characters young and funny and pranking each other and everything.
Well, they pulled us all in with the Red X.
Yeah.
But we didn't know how cool the other characters
Yeah.
were
And
be.
we see them, and it's funny when you have characters like Gorilla Greg or,
the Bat Kids.
The Bat Kids, everything, them in their swimwear and stuff that are like, what's a gorilla put on when he goes out to the lake? And you'll have to see it. It's really fun. There's also angry mobs involved, which, classic. We have the variant for it, which is the Lieber variant. You can see that Gorilla Greg is there all ready for his fun in the sun. But something's going down, so.
All right, so I read Basilisk #4, the horror suspense story by Cullen Bunn. And this issue was really cool. Like a lot of things have been culminating towards this issue. So in the first issue, we meet Hannah, who is a woman who wants revenge on the Chimera because they killed her daughter Erica. This has all been well revealed in the past bunch of issues. The Chimera, of course, they have powers that are related to their senses, so sight, taste, touch, sound, smell. But their powers are deadly. I mean, exceedingly deadly. Like, they could kill whole crowds of people. And so Hannah's daughter had been previously killed by them. Hannah, I'm just kind of catching everybody up, met up with Reagan. She is one of the Chimera who has the power of sight. She can kill you with her sight. And she kind of took her hostage, but really it was more like Reagan let her because she's not really part of the Chimera anymore. Now, where her allegiance lies, it's hard to tell. and how far she'll go against her old family, it's hard to tell. And how they got these powers, their history, that's all untold so far. Well, anyway, Hannah has been luring the Chimera to this area that she is trapping. She pretty much wants to fight them to the death over what they did to her daughter. And in this issue, it really does all come to a head. The traps are set. The Chimera are coming. We've learned that they have followers called the Faithful. The Faithful are coming. And Hannah, I mean, she's setting some die-hard traps. And she is ready to take them all on, not knowing if Reagan is going to help her, hurt her, or anything. And you will get to see how that plays out. It isn't just like a setup, okay, now it's going to happen. It all happens. There's a lot of action in this issue. Not everyone makes it out alive. That's what I'll say. So a very important issue of Basilisk. There is some good conversation, too, where Reagan tries to tell Hannah that they didn't know what they were doing. This has already been established, too, but this is the first time she's vocalized it to her. We've seen it, but the Chimera, when they first came out, they were wearing scrubs, almost like they were patients. They just kind of wander out of nowhere, and people die. And I think that's when Erica died. And Reagan tells her, we didn't know what we were doing. And Hannah basically does not care. I mean, when someone's killed your daughter, I don't know if there is a proper explanation.
Yeah, there's not much explaining it to do.
Exactly. So I think all that's done really well. I'm not sure where this is going after this issue because of some of the eventful things that have happened. But I will say a prophecy has heard this issue, and it seems that the story is taking another twist. So pretty monumental. If you've been reading it, you're not sure if you want to keep reading it, I would get this one, see what you think. Because it doesn't seem like Cullen Bunn is slowing it down. It's speeding up. So we have a variant. This is the Shalvey variant. And there you see Reagan, always covering her eyes, lest she murder a bunch of people without intending to. And then we have the 1 per store Sharf variant for $20. That is one of the members of the Chimera. I can't remember his name. It's on the tip of my mind, but fairly important. He gets some good time in this issue.
Do you think they'll be able to wrap the story up by, I guess issue 6 or however far Boom books usually go?
I don't think this was announced as a miniseries.
Okay.
I believe this is ongoing. So.
Well, that's probably a good thing then, because it sounds like it's not slowing down at all.
I know, yeah. It's been a popular series. We have a decent bit of people reading it.
So, talking about a series that's almost ending, this is the final issue of Sinister War, the Spider-Man event that I can just tell you after now reading it all, you really had to have been reading Amazing Spider-Man to read this Spider event. It is very entwined with what's going on there, to the point that by the end of this, we do have a lot of threads tied up, but knowing that 74 will be the last issue in this run, the ending's really there. It's not in here. So we do get kind of a culmination of the big teams of Spider-Man villains going at each other with Spider-Man caught in the middle. But overall, it felt like this, if you had the main Amazing Spider-Man series and it branched and ran equal parts and now it's coming back together, because it's just kind of two sides of the same coin. So if you're reading Amazing Spider-Man, you should be reading Sinister War because it's pretty important to that, and vice versa. So, final issue of this. The other thing that is noteworthy, the last, I want to say 1 or 2 pages, I can't remember how many, feel like the most important ones involved, and Spider-Man is not even on them. But I can't remember what issue, but there's some characters that appeared that was kind of like, whoa, what are they doing here? They come back to it, and it sounds like this is more about what's coming up for the future of Spider-Man. And kind of tied in with some of the stuff that we've been talking about with the new movie and everything. So Really cool tease at the end of this, but wanted people to know, if you haven't been reading Amazing Spider-Man or if you haven't been reading Sinister War, you really need to read both of them to get the full story. So we've got a few of the variants for this. We have, of course, the handbook variant they've been doing, this time with Lady Octopus. And then we have our 1 in 25 Gomez variant with Spider-Man and Boomerang that we are selling to our customers for $20.
All right, so the last few I have to talk about are all reprints.
Ah.
I have Ultimate Fallout 4. They're doing a facsimile reprint of this. So we want to let you know that if you're interested in this, which I think many people are, to look for it at your store. Call ahead. I bet a lot of stores do not order enough of these because not a lot of people ask for reprints, but then once it's there, it's like, well, why wouldn't I want this?
Yeah.
Now I can actually read it, show it off, see what it's all about. And Andy, you were talking about this earlier. You said that it had ads that were facsimile ads from the time.
Yeah, so it's funny in the older ones, when you've got like first appearance of Moon Knight or whatever, you're like, oh, look at these ads for
they're
X-ray
so,
specs.
Yeah.
This one's like, oh, what about this ad for Icebreaker's gum featuring Captain America from the movie and what's going on in Ultimate Comics and the interview with Jonathan Hickman. It's like, you could have fooled me and put these same ads in a book that really did come out this week, and I probably would have not have thought any different of it.
And I think it's also smart of them having released this because now they're doing the 10th anniversary Miles covers. So yeah, let's get this out there. So just want everyone to know that that is available for release as of tomorrow as well.
Yeah, in fact, facsimiles are essentially a good way for people to get books that may be out of their price range.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if they're old or not. These are books that we think, hey, you should read this. You should have the ability to read this without, having to dig too deep to get it. So that can work for recent books too.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any more to go?
I am fresh out.
Just two more reprints I want to show off. One is Moon Knight. This is the latest series. It just started about a month ago. Moon Knight #1 has gone to second print. This has been wildly popular. It's been really good. I got to read a preview of issue #3, which is fantastic. So it's your chance to get on board if you missed it. I mean, we sold leagues of these and still had people come in once we were out of them. Mm-hmm. Also, you might want the second print because second prints are often worth a good bit of money later if you're into that. Here is the second print John Romita Jr. variant. We are selling to our customers for $55 while supplies last. And lastly, I have this Kaiju score has gone to third print. So why would this go to third print? This is the first of all the Aftershock properties that got optioned. This is optioned by Sony. They're making a movie of it. The premise is a heist has to take place right under the nose of a kaiju. Mm-hmm. So, you have all that going on, like, I guess Ocean's 11 while Godzilla is happening.
Yeah, as the city's getting evacuated because there's a giant monster, this team's got to go in there and they want to steal stuff without getting basically stepped on.
So, yeah, really cool premise. And if you missed it, you want to check it out, see what it's about before the movie. The third print is also out this week. And I guess that wraps us up.
That wraps it up.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. I hope we have done our job and we have told you about these comics without ruining the read for you. We've let you know about first appearances and a little bit more of what each one is about and why you might like it or why you might pass on it. So thanks for joining us on our Tuesday day early comic review show. We're some of the first people I think that reviews comics out there. But even if you watch this show later on, I like to think we do a good enough job. It's okay to watch us on a Wednesday, a Saturday, any day, hopefully. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button if we have helped you at all. We keep on trucking along, gaining members, pulling together the people who like comics the way we do.
Yeah, so give us a like, give us a subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy, just tell it whoever you see walking by.
It will be greatly appreciated. In the meantime, go read some comics and have a great week.